Welcome to ISRA League's Grand Touring Championship, brought to you by the Z1 SimWheel LCD display, now available separately as software that you can run on your computer without the LCD display hardware. So check it out at z1simwheel.com. Get these dashboards into your rig. This is the Canadian Maple 70 round, well, let's just check that before I put my foot in my mouth.
Round something, that's for sure. We're in the middle somewhere.
Round four of Season 8. And I'm Daniel Quaroni. We've got Brian Carey.
Hello, guys.
And Anthony Muniz.
Good to be back with you.
With me here in the booth. And let's check out the point standings. So, really tight for the top four there. Russell Cow currently leading on Mike Kelly by just 3 points in Daytona Prototype. Timothy Stahl, though, has definitely a reach, and Carlos Passos also within striking distance of the top spot. And checking out the Cadillac, we've got James Cullen, 50 points, but Mark Payne and Colin McLean both really close behind. Warren Bateman and Todd Carver also not too far behind, but starting to fall back, I'd say, as we are in the fourth race now. Drop week is included in these point standings as well. And the cars are about to take off on their pace lap, and we'll check out the map in just a moment. There we go. Oh, I thought the car was going to start moving. Looks like the pace car is still stationary. And there we go. Brian, take us away on the map.
Alright, well, this is my home track here. Just a short drive north of Bowmanville, Ontario, a couple hours outside of Toronto, Ontario. Very, very difficult course. It's very flowing. This is a track raced very primarily in the 60s. Still used today, obviously, but that's when it was designed for. Number 2, Clayton Corner there is the most difficult corner on the track. It's a blind downhill left-hander. Picking your apex and your turn is extremely hard, so look for a lot of incidents there. The grass is not very forgiving on the outside, so you end up hitting the wall. Then turn 5, Moss Corner. It's actually turn 5 and 5A. Uphill hairpin, another difficult one, but that's also important because it takes you down the Mario Andretti straightaway into turn 8, which gives you most of our passing opportunities.
And qualifying in the Daytona Prototypes, we have Russell Cow on pole with a 1 minute 11.1. Timothy Stahl just 0.3 behind him. Brian Carey and Mike Kelly take up the second row. John Middleton and Jeremy Burris are on the third. Carlos Passos and Mike Tyler on fourth row, and Matthew Voigt and Chuck Chambliss on the fifth row.
And for the just barely in front of Todd Carver by 400ths. Wyatt Foster and Ricardo Machuca will be the second row, with Eduardo Prado and Lauren Bateman on the third. John Kuzlin and Daniel Gralty will be the fourth row, with Colin McLean and John Kelly rounding out the fifth row of the Cadillacs.
Very short lap here, so the cars are coming onto the back straight right now. Probably, I think this is probably one of the shorter, or at least shorter laps of the series, because it's a very, very fast track. 1 or 2 slow corners, Moss Hairpin being the slowest, but the rest of it is pretty flowing and relatively high speed for these cars.
Yeah, now the interesting thing on turn 2 there is that the Daytona prototypes are actually pretty planted through that turn, more so than most any car I've driven here. But I think probably, and Anthony, you can speak to this, the Cadillacs are probably a lot trickier to handle in that corner.
Yeah, the Cadillacs are definitely using all of the track here at Moss, through Moss Corner and turn 2 as well. This is definitely a difficult track for the GT cars. They're big and heavy, and the less downforce than what the prototypes have. They're definitely a little bit more of a handful.
All right, well, we got an hour 10 on the clock, and as the cars come back down on the straight, we are going green. Let's see the green flag. There we go. Clock is ticking. Looks like a pretty clean start. Unfortunately, Chuck Chambliss blinking a little bit there and interrupting our flow of the camera, but you can see he's mid-pack roughly. And now to Jerry Knitter and PJ Losi.
We've actually got some activity in the pits already, guys. There's some activity on the pace lap there.
Yeah, actually, just coming right when we were coming out of the last corner back about mid-pack for the Cadillacs, there was quite a large spin and pile-up for quite a few. It was happened just in front of me, so I know that it happened, and a lot of guys dove into the pits to try and get repairs.
Like I said, it's an unforgiving track for drivers. It's an unforgiving track for cars. It's just, I mean, as you can see here coming down turn 4 into turn 5, which is a Moss hairpin, any wheel off, there's a lot of grass, not a lot of runoff towards the wall there, so typically, like I've mentioned this before, if you put wheel off, pretty much a one-way ticket straight into one of those tire walls or concrete walls. And Ron Boyd with our colleague Daniel Peroni here. He's in 10th place, battling behind, looks like Matthew Voigt in the nuclear-powered Riley there just ahead. And there I am.
Yeah, a lot of close racing at the start in the Daytona prototypes. This is Brian Carey fighting with Mike Kelly for 3rd place in class, and they're just about a second off of the top 2 cars right now. We'll jump on board now with Chuck Chambliss as there's a good train of cars in front. Daniel Peroni getting a little bit loose coming out of that corner. And Chuck Chambliss looking to maybe possibly go side by side as they head down into the Moss hairpin. Not going to quite happen. Daniel Peroni able to close the door as they head into the hairpin. Oh, Peroni gets sideways. Looks like he's still going to be going. Oh, and comes across the nose of Chuck Chambliss. Wow, that was very close and good for all those drivers to be able to avoid that. Looks like Peroni able to still continue on without taking damage. Wow, quite impressive right there.
Yeah, it's one of those sections of the track there where you know, the guy's going off to your right, you know he's going off, you know you have to turn right, so you're just waiting for that car to come sliding across and hopefully not into the front or into the side of you. So good heads up driving by Chuck there, good heads up by driving by Dan, but once he realized that he was going off the track, and looked like everyone got out of that one okay. A little bit of hurt pride on Dan's side a little.
Yeah, on that one I entered the turn a little bit weird because, as you saw, I was just tracking out in front of Chuck on the straight, and I wasn't exactly sure how my situation settled out with him, and I hit a curb on the left slightly differently than I usually did, and it just sent me right off to the right.
Yeah, even that turn 4 there, it's a little easier than turn 2, turn 4, but it's still a blind corner, and you really have to pick your line. So even though going through the corner, it doesn't stress the car that much, it still stresses it enough that if you miss your turn in by even a little bit, the corner goes from being mostly easy to very difficult, and it happens in a hurry, so you really got to watch that.
Looks like Kerry got a little twitch in the back end there and didn't get the power down quite as fast as, let's see, that is the 85 Jeremy Burris, and Burris able to make the pass up the back straight.
Yeah, really good view of James Mines there in the 84, sliding his way through turn 4, heading into the Moss hairpin turn 5. And that looks like that's Anthony Muniz off the track. Hopefully he didn't damage anything going through the Moss hairpin there. As you can see, that is...
that's Warren Bateman, and he's got damage big time on the front.
Yeah. That's what you would call damage, yes. Hopefully Anthony got away without damage. Lauren Bateman, unfortunately, not so much. That's crunched pretty good.
A little side-by-side contact here with Jerry Morstor and Jules Moret through turn 1. Morstor goes off wide. Looks like he's able to avoid any sort of damage and continue on. But that's some close racing right there.
And you just got a brief glimpse of Jerry going through turn 2 there. A little slower than he usually would, but you got a pretty good idea of how difficult that corner is, because you can't see the corner until you're already into the corner, if that makes any sense. Basically, you've already turned the car, you've already pointed it, and then once you crest the hill, you'll find out if you did it right or not. And most of the time you do, but those times you don't are scary. And as you see, Kenny Coughlin and PJ Losey battling.
And here is John Rossutos going side by side down the back straight with Brent Briles, and it looks like Rossutos is going to have the advantage. Looks like he might be able to drag past before they even get to the corner. Definitely has the advantage. Briles tries to battle back on the outside, and he's going to go around the outside. Well done there.
That's one of those corners there where, at least for the Daytona prototypes, I'm told the Cadillacs have a slightly different line, but Daytona prototypes start out wide, and you don't apex the inside of turn 8 there until really, really, really late. So John had a pretty good position on the inside, but I don't think he finds himself on the inside of that corner very often. And what that means is you don't want to go in there full tilt with someone on the outside and wipe them out. So a little cautious from John Rossutos there. Brent Briles very bold on the outside, but what's going to happen next time is if John gets another chance, I think he'll probably make that pass stick. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm noticing the engine sounds are coming a little bit out of sync. I don't know if that's just my headphones or not, but...
No, I've noticed as well, and hopefully our viewers won't, because if we're lucky, I'll be able to get it fixed, and everything will sound great.
On board now with Daniel Quilroni as he's right under the back wing of Gilles Moret. And doesn't really have a run to do anything there. You're going to have to wait until they go around another lap. And you can see John Rosuta's also just in front. All three of these drivers got past Brent Briles as he went wide coming out of, I believe it was the Moss hairpin. A bit farther up the field is Brian Carey, and he's still battling with Jeremy Burris, who was able to drag his way past going down the back straight as Brian got a little bit squirrely coming out of that corner. And you can see just behind him is Carlos Passos, looking very, very strong so far, and on the right under the back wing of Brian Carey. And this is a very good three-way battle. Looks like Russell Cow, the current race leader, has managed to pull about a 4-second gap over second-place Timothy Stoll, who we can just catch. Well, actually, can't quite catch him in that picture, but he is up there. He's about 3 seconds ahead of the other Turn 1 Heroes car, Mike Kelly, that you can see. So the couple front two guys spreading themselves out, but a lot of close racing a little bit back farther in the field.
Yeah, I just want to mention here that myself, Carlos Pastos, John Rizzuto's, Tim McLeish, all this is their home race here. I'm just looking through the list to see if I'm missing anyone from the Southern Ontario area. I'll catch that later if I do, but this is all our home track here, Carlos and myself, as you can see on the screen there. So both of us looking for a good result here.
Oh man, Todd Carver re-entering the track, yeah, and Daniel Gralty just able to slide inside. It looks like he's got an advantage on the straight. He's certainly got the inside line, which is going to be helpful for him.
Yeah, typically rules are in our league here that you have to defer to the guys on the track when re-entering, and Todd made a pretty aggressive re-entry there, as we're going to see. Looks like Matthew Voigt, as you notice, he stays until Marty Jeffries is passed and the area is clear there, but like I was saying, try to give, deference to the cars on the track. You can't run into another guy there. Luckily, Dan Gralty kind of had his heads up, because had Dan held his regular racing line, which had been right on the exit curb there could have been an accident. So both lucky there, and it looks like, let's check on this sheet here, if it does look like Dan Gralty got that position. So.
And Matthew Voigt off on the right, yeah, he had some damage there.
Yeah, sometimes if you, especially here, if you go off and you manage to save the car, you can kind of rattle your psyche a little bit, just because it was such a near miss, and it looks like he's definitely has some heavy damage on his car now. I'm assuming that was probably coming either in or out of the Moss hairpin, so I'm assuming that he will be, and spins again. I'm assuming that is a result of the damage. Hopefully no cars were behind for him to run into him. I'm sure he'll be trying to make his way to the pit stops and try and get that fixed.
Yeah, I actually had a similar accident here last season, and in that very corner I went off and somehow beached the nose into the ground and did a front flip and landed on my roof, so Matthew a little lucky to get out of that one relatively unscathed. There's Lauren Bateman with his crunched Cadillac, Team CTC. We were not actually on board with John Rizzuto's. John Rizzuto's with the 01 there. We're trying to find him on track somewhere, but still unfortunately unable. That's Lauren Bateman in the pits
as
there.
usual, the 01 looks like the leading zero makes it impossible for the camera to walk on. But I think we should be able to catch him here. We've got Gilles Moret, Brent Briles, and Daniel Quaroni just ahead of those two.
Yeah, there's Daniel Crony leading Gilles Moret, and Brent Biles running his tail. So it's a very, very tight battle for, I don't even know what place that is right now.
I think that was for like 13th still, pretty far back. Oh! And that is
there's
number 7, Jerry Knitter, doing a full spin around turn 2, though. That might have been the way to do it. He might have hit it off the left wall and off the right wall.
Miller just still probably holding his breath right now. That was intense from his point of view. Not sure which way Jerry's car was going to go. Jerry able to keep it to the inside. Gary able to drive past without any incidents, but that was intense. And look at, you can see Jerry Knitter there on track. He might have got some damage, but Brent Biles has been picked severely. So he's not able to challenge Gilles Moret, but looks like positions held the same.
And this is Carlos Passos right under the rear wing of Jeremy Burris, and Burris going to try and hold on as they hit. Yep. He's going to have the outside preferred lane, and he'll have the inside as they go through the next corner, and he'll be able to maintain his position. But Carlos Passos looking very racy right now. John Middleton almost trying to take advantage of the slower cornering speed that the two cars had because of their battle, and he is right there also looking to gain a position.
I'd just like to note that, sorry, that my car is no longer in this battle because I am picking it out of the turn 2 wall right now. So
yeah, I was just going to ask, what happened to Brian Carey there?
And too wide going through turn 2. You don't see that very often. Both drivers very good to make it through. Carlos Passos is going to go around the outside of turn 3, and he'll have the position. And it looks like there could be another challenge from behind as what? Nope, not going to quite have as they head down towards the Moss hairpin, but some very, very hard racing going on between these 3 drivers. Oh, and Passos too hard into the Moss hairpin, and he'll spin it and lose 2 positions in the process. Luckily, no damage, so he'll be able to continue on, but he's going to lose a lot of time. There are 2 more Daytona prototypes also coming right behind, and he'll also lose positions to them as well.
Yeah, you can see that happening all the way through turn 4 there. Typically, you don't slide the car through turn 4, and you can see Carlos's rear tire getting loose a little bit there, and then on his turn, and you can just tell he's carrying way too much speed into the first part of the Moss S, and that's the result. We got Chuck Chambliss. Connection issues look like they're stabilized a little bit. Challenging hard on Mike Taylor there. This is for 6th position now.
Now, does anyone know the significance of the I am second?
I believe I'd asked Chuck about that previously, but I forgot what he said, so... Now, one point I would like to make out, and I apologize to our colleague Timothy Stahl here, he's out in 2nd place right now, but if we do see those Turn 1 Heroes cars, Jeremy Burris included, I want to do a shout out to Dylan Schmidt, I believe the name is. If I got that wrong, Tim, I apologize, and I honestly have no idea what his graphical design, but he's responsible for the paints of all those Turn 1 Hero cars. As I mentioned previous, we do talk a lot about the paint schemes here. Marty Jeffries does a lot of the paint schemes in-house here. I'm not sure who did them for the ISRA cars, but Dylan Schmidt would be responsible for the Turn 1 Heroes cars, which is Jeremy Burris, Mike Kelly, Timothy Stahl, and James Cullen.
Carlos Passos definitely seems to have the pace, even though he did lose it going through the Moss hairpin. Ooh, gets it quite squirrely coming out of the final corner as well. He's going to lose time. And another position there to Chuck Chambliss as he goes around on the outside into turn 1. So Carlos Passos definitely has speed, but he's making mistakes, and that's costing him a lot of time. He's going to have to settle down. Still a lot of time left in the race to make those positions up, but if he continues to make mistakes like that, he's not going to be able to catch back up, as John Middleton challenging with Jeremy Burris up there in the Turn 1 Heroes for 4th place, and he's looking quite strong, but they've got a lot of Cadillac traffic in front of them that's going to help make things difficult.
Yeah, part of the thing with the Cadillac, and actually all the cars here, going through the corners, and it's particularly when you're lapping another car, or a slower car of any sort, is, Anthony mentioned, you have to use all the track in these corners. I mean, you don't need to use all the track. You can always drive a little bit slower, but it's just the corners are so long and so committed. You have to make your commitment to the speed pretty early. And once you've committed to that, there's not a lot you can do to change your line until you get to the exit of the corner. And because there's a lot of left, right, left, sometimes those corners last 3 corners at a time, which means that you think you might have run on a Cadillac on the inside, but he's really committed to his trajectory and really can't do a lot to change it. Can't cut on the brakes because you'll spin, can't change the steering because you'll spin, but he can't do a lot because anything you do outside of what you tried to do, because you'll spin. So this is a corner. We're coming to turn 1 here. While following Carlos Passos going into turn 2. Oh, on board, excellent. Right behind Colin McLean there in the 68. But if you Mike Taylor has been spun around. That does not look like anything that he had done.
I think it was a tap from behind.
Yeah, and there it is, right there. Looks like that was Carlos and Mike getting together. We'll have to, well, I say check the replay. We don't unfortunately have replays, but. What I was saying there, I think that was exactly true, is you commit to the corner, you have a certain speed, and if you come in there too fast, the guy ahead of you is too slow, there's not a lot you can do about that. It looks like Carlos has exited out of the race, so that's a race over for him.
Yeah, that is unfortunate for Passos. Like I said earlier, he did definitely look like he had a lot of speed and was going to be able to challenge for possibly a podium here. But I think once he fell behind, when he made that mistake and fell behind, I think he just tried to do too much too quickly and was overdriving the car, and that is what forced some of those incidents.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I've noticed is kind of unfortunately a pattern for Carlos in some of these races. Is he can stick up front, if he can get through the first 5 laps clean, not make any mistakes. He's normally pretty solid for the entire race. But what tends to happen is one mistake compounds into another, and we've seen that a few times this season here. But in Daytona in particular, there was for the first few laps, he had a few incidents. I think he was able to get to the end in that race, but unfortunately not in Mosport here. Also, interesting other random fact, the track now known here, but is now Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, which is one of those things where corporate sponsors get in there and they run actually quite a lot of races here. You know, Grand Am. I don't know if Grand Am runs here. I think American Le Mans still runs here, but
they do.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's Mosport. I'm going to continue calling it Mosport. I understand, you know, you have to sell title sponsorship and whatnot, but we're getting into an age now where too many sports venues and tracks are consider characters being changed by corporate interest. It's one thing to have, you know, a title sponsor for a track, but to actually change the name of the track to a corporate sponsor is a little. I will continue to refer to it as Mosport, as most people will.
Got a good battle here between Jerry Morsdorf and Karl Mumbauer, and these guys have been together for the last couple laps and don't seem to be they seem to be quite equal in pace. These guys are one of the closer battles now that we've kind of hit traffic where everyone's kind of getting settled in. The battles have somewhat dissipated. Also, have to can't forget about some of the guys having to retire early, unfortunately, and some of the battles are getting a bit more spaced out. But we'll jump on board now with Gilles Moret as Brent Brile is able to get by on the outside. Moret getting held up behind the number 27 of John Kuzland there, and that unfortunately cost him some time and a position. We'll jump on board Marty Jeffries as they head through the Moss hairpin.
Yeah, that was a re-pick incident there with, you'll recall that Brent got picked by a Cadillac several laps back, so now he's just regaining that position from a pick situation of his own.
And there's John Rizzuto's there just ahead of Marty Jeffries. John Rizzuto's in the blue and white 01 car, which we don't get a chance to see if we're looking for him, but occasionally when we're not looking for him, we do get to see him as he is there up ahead of Marty Jeffries. This is a battle for 7th place right now. There's a lot of attrition here, so a lot of guys that qualify further down the field have been able to keep their nose clean, both figuratively and literally, and there's a lot of bumping from these cars here. So Marty Jeffries there sitting in 8th place, John Rizzuto's in 7th, and now we're back to Karl Mumbauer, who's running in, looks like, 14th position. Now, Karl Mumbauer, as you can see in the back there, is sponsored by Jägermeister. He's contractually obligated to replace his water bottle with a bottle of Jägermeister. So typically, for 2-hour races, you will notice that Karl did not finish those because he's in the bag by about the hour 30 mark in a 70-minute race. Luckily, he's able to show enough tolerance to typically make it to the finish, so we wish him well here.
We jump on board now with Marty Jeffries and his Daytona prototype. You can see the back of John Rizzuto's, that's the car he's chasing. A couple Cadillacs up there, and that looks like the leader, James Cullen. And that's Wyatt Foster just behind. He's about a half a second. This is probably one of the few times that James Cullen has actually been challenged this season. Well, I guess not. We've had some good battles in the Cadillac, but this is... Wyatt Foster seems to be the only driver that's going to be able to challenge James Cullen so far in this season, and that looked like a Cadillac off there. Couldn't quite catch who that was, but kind of a bit of an odd place. I guess if you miss your braking point going into turn 3, that is possible, but a little bit more unusual.
Well, Lauren Bateman is shown on track, and that looked like his colors, so I think that was probably him.
And John Middleton is all over the back of Jeremy Burris here, so he's going to go to the outside, and this is actually probably the better passing place. If it wasn't for Jerry Nitter's number 7 car there, John Middleton could probably run it right around the outside here as he goes. They're going for the door, and yep. Oh, did he hold on? Maybe they both.
Wow.
Oh, wow, nice. And doesn't look like any damage. We'll have to see the side of, wasn't really in focus there, John's car, but looks like they both got out of that one all right. One thing I want to point out too is John Middleton, I think his connection, I'm not sure exactly where he's coming from right now, but his connection seems to be a little bit slower than others, so sometimes those side-to-side contacts are exaggerated a little bit, but they're both able to get through there and run it all right, as this is now the battle for, battle number 6 in Cadillac. And I apologize for those at home because Dan.
That's good. I was going to say. Jeremy Burris has to be on the outside there with him holding that inside line, and sure enough, he was.
We'll get to see more of this battle then, which is good for us because it's been fantastic so far. Now we've got Daniel Coroni behind the 01 of John Rizzuto's. This is the battle for 7th place.
Also have Marty Jeffries just behind, so this battle has closed up a bit. We saw it in the opening stages of the race, and it broke apart a bit, and now that traffic has calmed down somewhat for these guys, they've closed the gap between, and this is a good strong battle here for 7th place.
I do like the scheme there on John Middleton's car. Very, very simplistic Union Jack on this side, but well, a lot of these cars have been very, very highly detailed, a lot of sponsors. The 76 there of John Middleton's also a very interesting design. As you can see, the front corner there is unfortunately a little scratched up a bit, but hopefully it doesn't hurt his speed too much.
He looks to be keeping pace with Jeremy Burris quite well, so part of that, a little bit of that could come down to that he is drafting, but really because this is such a flowing track and there's not really any straights except for the long back straight, that won't have a huge effect. Jeremy Burris goes wide in Moses' corner, and I could see him bouncing off of the wall there. I'm not sure how much damage that's going to produce, but I'm sure that he'll have something, and that gives John Middleton an easy pass up there for 4th place.
Sadly, I have a lot of experience in damaging the Daytona prototype this year, and that's probably the end of his race there. He might be able to keep the thing rolling. In other words, the steward will not sit him down for too much damage. However, it's virtually impossible to drive this track with any sort of suspension damage, and I'm pretty sure he's got a lot of that. There's a battle for 4th place right now between Dan Gralty and Todd Carver.
And Gralty was able to hold once he got by Carver when he went wide coming out of Moss corner. He's been able to hold on to it, and we know both of these guys are very quick drivers, and this is currently a battle for 4th place. Gralty trying to hold on to the 4th position, and Todd Carver is all over the back of his Cadillac, so he's going to have a tough job. We know Todd Carver is a very strong GT driver, and he's definitely not a easy guy to hold off, but it looks like Gralty pulling into the pits. That could be seems like that might be a little bit early, but I guess they are in the pit window if you fill the tank up and then run it dry towards to the end.
Yeah, there seemed like there was next to no draft though. Todd Carver came basically out right in his rear bumper and was not able to pull up anything on Gralty going to the straightaway there. So contrast that with Daniel Coroni here behind John Rizzuto's, and I think he'll be able to pull up slightly as he gets to the end of the straightaway. You can see it almost a little bit. He's probably caught up with 5 or 6 car lengths, but he was too far back to begin with. However, that last stop with Gralty, you can see coming out of the pits there at the bottom of the screen. Jeremy Burris trying to fix what is probably a 2 damaged car.
Yeah, he may be able to go out and turn laps, but with that amount of damage, it looks like it's fairly crumpled there on the driver's right-hand side. I'm assuming that's probably not going to be anywhere near competitive pace, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, I don't know from Jeremy's point of view, but from my point of view, at some point when we're challenging for a championship, ideally, I mean, we're trying to figure out points, but sometimes just the stress and the difficulty in driving a damaged car around just to pick up maybe a place or two is a little too much, and you don't want to get in the way of anyone else and ruin anyone else's race. So Jeremy will probably get the car fixed, see how it feels, and then make his decision at that point whether he wants to continue or not. And we're looking at this battle here for 6th place between John Rizzutos and Daniel Crony there. Wondering if anyone has actually had a chance to try the new Z1 software outside of the LCD display.
I haven't. I've looked at it. I'm currently kind of at a interim part from my stage for my rig right now. I'm looking to see if I can't find a way to either integrate some sort of screen and use that software as a dashboard for like an LMP or a HPD style setup, or if I'm also looking at using something like a Formula One style wheel. So definitely something that I'm very interested in. I like the fact that they have oh, and that's James Cullen off, and he pulls into the pits. I'm not sure if he was intending to go into the pits there and had some sort of lockup and messed up, or what happened, but that's going to cost him quite a bit of time, I'm assuming. Wyatt Foster currently leading right now.
Yeah, he looked like maybe it was just him correcting a slide, but it looked like he was crabbing a bit going through that corner there. So that was going to be Daniel Crony's good opportunity here, because he's got a Cadillac up ahead. That's Timothy Johnson in the 18. He's right under the rear of John Rizzutos. He's got the run, he's got the line. So remember, John Rizzutos having trouble making the pass stick on the inside here. Let's see if Crony's able to figure it out the first time around.
Crony looks to be alongside a little bit more than Rizzutos was. They're side by side. Oh, and we jump away. They were side by side going into the corner, and he's going to have to get it done before they hit the next left-hand turn, because that would give him. Did he?
Yeah,
okay,
unfortunately the director did not want to jump away, but it turned its focus towards John Rizzutos, and you can see the effect.
I see.
Ah, yes, okay. Well, then we go to the next car in line, which is the number 1 of Lauren Bateman, which, as you can see, is not ideally tuned right now.
I think for future broadcasts, I will make it stop attempting to focus on cars that start with the number 0, because it's just not working out.
Or all of you watching this could leave a comment for a petition to have John Rizzuto's 01 number changed to something else that the director likes a little bit more.
Yeah, that might be a consideration there. We'll see how they feel about that, because there's John Rizzutos, as we're looking for him right now, as well as I believe he's in this race right now, but Mark Payne runs the 09, and Mark Payne is typically a perennial front runner with Ricardo Machuca, James Cullen, Wyatt Foster, I guess, when he's here. After utterly dominating, I believe he was in the Ford GT last year, Wyatt does not make as many appearances this year, but he is still a keen ISRA GTC member. Oh, looks like we're on board Gilles Moret, so this is actually a battle. This is for 9th place. That's Brent Briles just ahead of him. Caught up behind looks like Todd Carver. Yep, that's a number 40 there. It's kind of hard to tell because the back of the 40 and the 41 are right up look somewhat similar until you get a decent look at them. And Gilles Moret, his right front quarter panel is a little smushed, and doesn't seem to be slinging about too much, as Brent Briles also has a little bit of a called smushing at the front there.
And let's see what Gilles Moret can do. He's definitely going to have a they're going to be able to get side by side by the time they get towards the end of this straight, and he'll have the outside line. If he can stick it around the outside, that'll give him the inside line. Oh, he's not going to have it? Nope, and didn't quite have it, and Brent Briles will be able to pull through on the inside. Because if he could get it and at least stay side by side, that would give him the inside advantage in the next corner, but can be difficult to do, especially if you don't quite get the braking right and you brake a little bit too much, as we saw happen right there, and he'll have to chase him down again. It looks like a few more GT cars coming up for both of these drivers, so that could play a factor in their battle for 9th place.
Yeah, it's one of those corners there, turn 8, that if you can get to the outside is definitely faster, but you are counting on the driver on the inside not to hit a curve and slide up into you, because if there's contact, typically you'll be the one going off. But all things being equal, the outside line is the fastest through turn 8. So if you can hold it there, like Anthony says, you have the inside at turn 9 and complete the pass. Well, it is fun to watch Lauren Bateman there, the damaged car, sliding it through 8, 9, and 10, coming onto the front straightaway. So there is that. We are looking for the battle between John Rizzuto and Dan Crony, which is 0.4 of a second right now, and would be fantastic. Looks like it could be fantastic, but we'll just watch this Cadillac drifter through turn 2. Very nice, hitting all the marks there. Not drifting out all the way to the exit curb as he could have, but it actually looks like he's pedaling that thing around pretty good for the damage of the pass. So.
And the battle between that we're trying to look at, or the director is trying to look at right now between Coroni and Rizzuto's is quite good right now. Currently, Rizzuto's has dropped to about 6/10 of a second back off of Coroni, but up until that point, they were wavering between 0.3 of a second and up to about half a second or so. So those two drivers are definitely going at it. They seem to be quite equal in pace as of right now, and hopefully we're able to get a good look at those cars coming up pretty soon.
I'm just looking at the timer here. We can see our director is intending to follow this for the next 3 minutes. So we'll just watch this for a little while. I don't know if you guys want to talk about anything else as we are watching Lauren Bateman drive around the track. But,
well, just before we go off on a bit of a tangent, just update on James Cullen, who we saw had some sort of drama trying to get into the pit lane, or had a wreck just before the pit lane. He's currently 2 laps down of Stephen Clark in 10th place right now, so definitely looks like James Cullen is out of the running for a podium here at Mosport. Right now, Wyatt Foster currently leading with about a 1.5 second lead over Ricardo Machuca, who has about 19 seconds between himself and Colin McLean in 3rd place.
Yeah, and the standing is there. As you can see the ticker up at the top of the screen there, but we're approaching halfway, which will be the 35-minute point, so expect to see most of the Daytona prototypes start their pit sequence at the 35-minute. We don't get any earlier than that, but we have Russell Cow, our leader. He's about 6.5 seconds ahead of Timothy Stoll, who is a further 11 seconds ahead of Mike Kelly in 3rd place, with John Middleton another 11 seconds behind Mike. And Chuck Chambliss, as you can see on the screen, just exiting right now, is in 5th position. 7.5 seconds behind John, with that battle of Dan Crony and John Rizzuto's the further 8 seconds back. We just lost someone.
Yeah, I can't tell you how frustrating it is to not be able to see this battle when I'm involved in it. I would love to get the screen time.
That said, if you do want to see this battle and you're involved, check out Dan's upload of his behind-the-shoulder view of him actually doing the race live and commenting on it. So that battle is definitely available. So just link through Sim Racing Dan's YouTube channel there, and it looks, I think he has the upload for this race and a few others ahead of this one actually too. And I'll be honest to say that I haven't watched one of those in quite some time, so I might have to jump back in there and check it out, because a lot of the times Dan and I are racing the same category. I just kind of see where he is on the track there, and I do remember seeing it from we do race close enough for a lot of the time, so until one of us spins out, that is. Alright, we got 20 more seconds of this, guys, so it's kind of... There's Dan. There's the battle. It's actually it's coming to the camera, and we're going to cut away just as it gets to this car. Just watch. That's the battle right behind there. They're going to come into screen, and oh, there's Dan Crony and John Middleton. Or sorry, not Dan Crony. Yeah, John. Who is it? John Rizzuto. Sorry. And absolutely, there we go. Cutting away to Mark Jeffries.
On board with Marty Jeffries, who's
he's
behind
coming up the battle.
So we will get to see this after all.
That's that a boy, Marty. We get up there, make it a three-way battle because the director always in the battle there go for the focus on the trailing car. It's just kind of how it's done. So that's good news for us. As you can see, Dan Coney there just kind of cresting the hill at the top. Both will be going past the Cadillac right now, and looks like we're on now. We're just past the halfway point, so start looking for some Daytona prototype pit stops.
You can see a Daniel Corona was able to get a fairly large gap as we go on board now, as he heads into the pit lane for his one scheduled pit stop. But he had pulled quite a large gap between himself and John Rizzuto's, as Rizzuto's got held up behind Lauren Bateman going through the Moss hairpin, and that really allowed Marty Jeffries to catch up. So this will be interesting to see how the pit stops cycle through as we go on board now with Marty Jeffries, who's still behind John Rizzuto's. Those two guys opting to go for at least one more lap before they make their pit stop.
It's actually kind of interesting as you see Marty coming up behind John Rizzuto's here. Hopefully the sound will be fixed by the time you actually guys get to see this, but I've got the sound turned on a little bit because you see them accelerating up the straightaway and you can hear the cars audibly downshifting, so messes with the head a little bit when you see the speed, but on screen here the battle is pretty intense as Marty Jeffries is reeling in John Rizzuto. Says they're going to probably pit around the same time, so between John, Marty, and Dan watch as they all, once pit stop, shake out to see how those positions are, because they're basically nose to tail as the sequence started.
And once Marty Jeffries was able to catch back up to the tail end of John Rizzuto's, looks like he's been able to pretty much stick there. I think Rizzuto's getting held up by that Cadillac through Moss hairpin really was a good thing for Marty Jeffries. Obviously, it allowed him to kind of catch on the back of Rizzuto's, get a bit of a draft. Another Cadillac coming up here, which could prove interesting for them as they head down into the Moss hairpin. Both guys get through safely and cleanly. I think I just caught the Daytona prototype of Brent Briles as well, not too far behind these guys, so that could turn into a battle here shortly, depending on how pit stops work out.
I think we just came around, and maybe it wasn't that car, maybe I think it might have been Gary Miller, but just want to just point out to the number 18 of Timothy Johnston there. He's come over from our ISRA, some of our Oval Series, and has been doing very well in the road course cars. In fact, he runs the Grand Prix Championship in the Williams FW31, and has been doing very, very well over there.
Had
a very unfortunate result there in the last race that we ran, where he was in a podium position, crash at about just under 3 laps left, but considering where he's come from and what he's running now, the amount of cars he's getting up there and doing very, very well in the road courses as well as the ovals that he runs.
In fact, I think he might actually be
I think he's actually second in the championship right now.
That's going to point that out. Yeah, second or third place in the Drivers' Championship, which is quite impressive, and hopefully that he'll get picked up by a team next season, because he's definitely gaining points and has a very consistent driver. I think it's surprised a few people so far this season. He's turned out to really work his car strategy to get the maximum points that he can, so good to see him expanding his horizons, and seems to be doing quite well in road racing.
Yeah, that was one thing I was noticing too. He's doing very, very well. They're very consistent, although I had some thoughts about noticing the point scheme there is very harsh to some drivers like myself who have a couple of first corner crashes, but that's just the nature of the beast in that championship there. First lap crashes, I should say, or early lap crashes, not Grosjeaning it up in the Grand Prix Championship by any means, but a few things here and there. I did have one first lap crash, which was extremely unfortunate. But back to this race here, we've got Chuck Chambliss, who is back in 7th place after having made his pit stop.
I think there's a bit of a tire. Oh, thought there might have been a bit of tire smoke there, and someone had gone off in the Moss hairpin, but looks like everything is okay. And Marty Jeffries and John Rasudas are still pretty much nose to tail as they head down the back straight. Mike Kelly just in the pits now at a 3rd place, so we'll see these guys here. These guys might go and do another lap, or they might go ahead as Russell Cow, it looks like, has and Timothy Stahl have continued on, so we'll see how these guys do. Kind of hoping they go in at the same time so we can. Nope, Marty is in and John is still out on the track, so Marty the first to blink there. He's obviously being held up a little bit with some of the traffic and behind John. Hopefully he can get a couple quick laps in, and we'll see if he's able to gain a place by doing that. It will also be interesting to see what happens with Daniel Colroni, because he pitted a couple laps before both of those drivers, and see if he maintains the advantage that he had over them, or if they were able to put up fast laps in while he was in the pits and coming out on his tires. And here's Colroni right now. We go on board. Looks like he's probably going to get by Marty Jeffries, who's still being shown in the pit lane.
But what hopefully you can see is that John Rizzuto's is exiting the pit lane right now. You can't quite see it. He was right there. You can see on the timing and scoring.
Marty Jeffries.
Oh, Marty Jeffries. I thought it was John Rizzuto's. What happened here?
Yeah, John hasn't made his pit stop yet, actually.
Oh, no, okay. Then I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. I was thinking the wrong part of the race. I'll save that for later then.
A little bit of foreshadowing there, folks. Just keep your eyes open, but yeah, no, it's I'm not sure where I was going with any of that, but looks like we've got one more lap before the guys come out.
So Colroni looks like he was able to put in some very good times while in the after his pit stop. He's currently about 3.5 seconds ahead of Marty Jeffries, which is probably about a second farther ahead than when he pitted. So yeah. Colroni able to get some clean track after his pit stop and put down some quick laps and extend his lead over Marty Jeffries. Be interesting to see what happens when John Rasudas comes out.
Yeah, actually, the thing I was going to mention here is how the tires tend to perform here in the Daytona Prototype is early on in the stint. First probably 2 or 3 laps are your fastest laps of the entire stint. Then the times drop off rather severely in like probably the next 5 to 10 laps after that, before once the temperatures kind of settle out and as the fuel burns off again. So it was a few laps Dan had coming out of the pits there were probably his quickest laps. He's coming into his slower laps now as the times start to drop off where Marty's in his sweet spot. So Marty's sitting about 4.5 seconds back right now. I bet within the next 3 laps he'll probably have that gap down to 2.5 or 3 seconds. And John is still out on the track right now, so
we're jump on board with Carl Mumbauer. He's chasing down Mike Taylor, and looks like there's some Cadillac traffic, James Cullen included, and he is obviously quite far down the field because of whatever incident that was. But the GT traffic really allowed Carl Mumbauer to close the gap between himself and Mike Taylor, and he'll probably be able to challenge Taylor as they head down the back straight. I'm not sure if that'll get a pass, but he is right under his rear wing.
Yeah, actually, if you guys noticed, James Cullen almost got underneath Carl Mumbauer there as he had to slow down for the number 7 of Jerry Knitter, so it almost looked like James Cullen in the Cadillac was wanting to make a pass. So he is out, he's still in the race, he is still moving pretty good, but he is currently 3 laps down of the leaders in 10th place.
And Ricardo Machuca having some sort of drama, looks like on the front straightaway, and he's losing quite a bit of time. Doesn't look like he has any damage, but he's lost a couple of positions to Daniel Garalti and Todd Carver, and he was running in 3rd place, second place at one point, though I think pit stops might have changed that around a bit for the time being. But unfortunately for Ricardo Machuca, it is possible to lose if you get too much curb, get on the dirt there coming out of the final corner. That's easy to do. That's exactly what happened on the very start of the race with a couple Cadillacs to cause the pile up there that we unfortunately we couldn't see. But the battle between Mumbauer and Mike Taylor, going around the outside, almost lost it there. Got a little squirrely. Managed to save it. Good maneuver, good move by, and good driving rather by Karl Mumbauer as they negotiate their way through this GT traffic.
Remember, we are 45 minutes into a Jägermeister stint, so the driving is going to become a little bit more ragged and a little bit more entertaining at this point in the race. But we've got Mike Kelly there in the number 2 coming up to lap these guys, so it's going to be a little difficult lapping Cadillacs while being lapped yourself for Karl Mumbauer. This is a good race. There's Tim McLeish up there in 9th place. I haven't seen a lot of him, but as I mentioned before, he's one of the, actually he's probably the driver who lives closest to Bowmanville. I think he's in the Stouffville, Newmarket area, if I recall correctly, which is probably less than an hour from the track here, or about an hour, give or take. A lot of back roads and non-direct routes to get there, but in that area of the country. Yeah, it is definitely one of those old school tracks. I don't know a lot of the tracks in the United States. I would anticipate places like Road America and whatnot. I know Laguna Seca is, but a lot of the racing tracks are so far out of the population centers. Like you think you're absolutely in the boonies. There's nothing that could possibly be out here, and suddenly the tree's clear, and there you are, a racing track. So Laguna Seca is up in the mountains in near Salinas, California, and very, very difficult to get up there. A lot of winding roads. Road America, I'd imagine, be in the middle of nowhere. Mid-Ohio, probably
I'm not sure about Mid-Ohio, but yeah, you're definitely right on Road America. That is kind of, I think it's like 40 miles or something from the nearest town or something like that. And I believe Sebring is also, it's not quite as extreme as Laguna Seca or Road America, but it is kind of out of the way. And because it makes sense because it used to be an old Air Force base, so they don't usually put those in the city areas just to keep them safe, but yeah, you get
a lot of urban, sprawl and all that. But I do know that Mont Tremblant, my only home track, as I say, this is my home track in geographically, but my home track as far as real life experience is Mont Tremblant. I just know that Tremblant is a resort town. Saint Joe Beach is actually the track where the track is, and kind of in between there, you're just driving through it. It's probably improved quite a lot since they started running a lot more major races there recently, but there's just kind of a nondescript sign. You turn into the woods, go through a bumpy road, and there you are. And actually, I like those kind of tracks too, because they really, as you can see there, the scenery on the outside, they really are in the middle of the forest, and up and down through the hills, kind of like a little spa, not quite as vast as extreme as spa, but you get that kind of outdoors feeling, but obviously you're outdoors, but wilderness feeling, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And take a look at the number 72 of Brent Briles, and he seems to be gaining on the 01 of John Rasudos, who is currently in the pits. So Brent Briles, who has yet to make his pit stop, will get by. And now we'll see what happens between himself as Timothy Stoll also in the pit lane, it looks like.
That's Russell Cow right there.
Oh, yes, Russell Cow, rather. That's who I was. Read the wrong name, yes. So it'll also be interesting to see where John Rasudos exits the pits. And John Rasudos is back and moving, and it looks like Daniel Quaroni is in front of him at the moment. He's got about a half-second gap between the two cars. So it looks like Quaroni able to maintain the 6th place spot in front of John Rasudos. Not by much, just about a half a second, but he was able to do it.
Yeah, so that's where I pulled right out of the pits. He was next to me, but I had the more speed because I came through the turn there and was able to get ahead before turn 2.
And unfortunately, Marty Jeffries quite a long ways back off of John Rasudos. He must have had some sort of incident. He's currently about 13.5 seconds back from 7th place John Rasudos. So that was just turned into a two-person battle so far. And it looks like Ricardo Machuca might get a move on Todd Carver for 5th place. Though Carver's still going to be on the inside there as they head through turn 2.
Side by side through 2.
Yeah, that is definitely not recommended. And Ricardo was able to hold on going through side by side on 2, and then he'll get it going through 3. Because side by side through 2 in the Cadillac especially, definitely not recommended, but both of those talented drivers able to make it work. And Ricardo Machuca working his way back up the field, currently up to 4th.
Yeah, that was some good driving by both those guys there. It's Ricardo Machuca knowing he's on the inside, very careful. I mean, that's an entry where it's difficult to get when you use the entire track, but you haven't been on the outside of someone before. And unfortunately, I think the Cadillacs, a few of them have had Daytona prototypes on the inside on going to that corner, but it's really a hard one to spot when you don't know how the track is going to behave taking that line. And Timothy Stoll probably coming into the pits right now. Minajari is able to go a lap longer than Russell Cal. Very, very good pit entry for Stoll. Hopefully he didn't get a pit lane speeding entry, but a penalty. But that was pretty good from his part there. He came in there pretty efficiently. I don't know if his car seems less crunched now or if I'm just getting used to it. We're trying to follow John Rizzuto's and kind of secretly hoping that John makes a pass on our colleague Daniel Crony just so we could see the battle, but for now, rest assured when we're watching Lauren Bateman here, we are trying to watch John Rizzuto's run down the 64 of Crony there in the Kayak.com sponsored ISRA machine. Oh no, Todd Carver is off.
Ooh, well, he keeps it off the wall, which is the most important part, but he's definitely going to lose a lot of time there.
Yeah, he had quite a bit of distance on 6th place Timothy Johnson, but it really takes him back from Ricardo Machuca and to some extent Dan Gralty, who was only a couple seconds up the road from them at the time too. So that was shaping up to be a battle for 3rd, and fortunately it's spread out a little bit there. And I don't know what's going on here, but Colin McLean is still, he's leading the Cadillacs. I don't know where he came from, but he must have made his pit stop by now, because I think we're well past the pit window for all the cars. So,
well, he was just kind of quietly sitting in 3rd place for quite a while there. There was about a 20-second gap or so between himself and I believe it was James Cullen leading at the time. So, yeah, right now he's got a 3-second gap between himself and Wyatt Foster, and we'll see how that plays out. It'll be quite interesting. Colin McLean, who is a very fast driver, hasn't been quite as dominant as I think he's used to in the Cadillac this season, so I'm sure he's quite happy to be currently leading the race here.
Yeah, he's our reigning Daytona Prototype champion, and a lot of success there. Not that he didn't have any success in the Cadillac. He's been a very, like Anthony said, very solid performer, but it is very unusual at this point in the season to see him running up front on merit at that speed. We're with Wyatt Foster right now. Is he's?
Oh no, okay, Colin's in the pits now, so he hadn't pitted yet.
Never mind. Forget all that stuff we just said.
Well, this could be quite interesting though. He's got a fairly decent gap between himself and Daniel Gralty, so we'll have to wait and see where Gralty is on the track when Colin comes out of the pits. Oh well, Gralty's passed. Never mind.
Yep, and didn't notice that before, but Wyatt Foster also one of the Turn 1 Heroes members, because he doesn't run all the time. I didn't quite recognize his paint scheme, but he is the 40 or 53. So,
and we are getting a little bit. Well, we were getting a little look at the battle between Quaroni and Rizzuto's as we watched the Cadillac Ricardo Machuca, and there's still Daniel Quaroni able to pull a little bit of a gap between himself and Rizzuto's, currently about 1.3 seconds separating the two cars, and looks like they were working their way through a bit of traffic, so that could play a factor into that distance. I say that looks like Rizzuto's able to close the gap to under a second now, so that battle between them is definitely not over by any stretch.
And now the battle we're showing here is James Cullen. He is battling with Stephen Clark, which is in the red and white, or the white and red striped Can-Am Crackers car up in the front right there. And he is battling with, I'm not sure who he's battling with right now, but the battle on the track is with James Cullen. It looks like James has the speed to coming up at the end of the straightaway there, but it looked like he reeled him in pretty good.
Is that Gary Miller up there, I believe, in the Cadillac, just in front of these two cars?
Well, it's a 40-second gap I'm showing between Stephen Clark and Gary Miller, so I don't think that's him. Or is it? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Oh, it's Timothy Johnston, who is a lap ahead of this battle. James Cullen getting clear out of the way of his teammate Daytona Prototype, knowing he's only battling for 10th right now. So moving way over to the inside to let those faster cars through.
And the battle between Karl Mumbauer and Mike Taylor still continuing here in the closing stages of the race. And these guys have been like this for quite a while now, even before their pit stop started, and they've resumed after the pit stops have played out. Let's see, we're looking at Chuck Chambliss right now, and he is making his way past Brent Briles, who is currently in the pit lane. Not sure if that's a scheduled stop. That's really going to be pushing his fuel quite long, if that was a scheduled stop.
And James Cullen's really hustling it right now. It's a good view from the outside here as he's going through 8, 9, and 10.
This is probably a interesting position for James Cullen. He's used to being up at the front, not really having to let other cars by him except for the Daytona Prototypes, but now he's back in the field, laps down, and probably something he's not very much used to, I'd say.
Looks like his car is handling okay right now, so at least, like I was mentioning earlier, is that's one of the hardest things is when your car is damaged, you're just trying to make it to laps. It's one thing if you're able to bring it in, fix the damage, even though it's probably not running at 100%, and as long as it feels all right to drive, you can kind of bear down and kind of just battle with what you have. But in some cases, especially with suspension damage, it becomes just too difficult to concentrate on a car that is basically trying to kill you every corner. So I think James's car is handling okay. Top speed, not sure, but he's battled back to 9th place, and he's about 38 seconds back with 12 minutes to go. So I think that's a little bit too much for even him, but we'll see how he is able to run that down. As we're battling a battle for 10th, Mike Taylor or Karl Mumbauer for a top 10 position. We're approaching 60 minutes into his Jaeger bottle there, so this is the point where I'd say that apex where you go kind of a little fuzzy to you really gain that just extra level of focus there at that 60 to 70 minute mark, which is what the team and the engineers try to peak Karl at, and looks like things are going well as he's keeping right with Mike Taylor. And just caught a glimpse that I am actually 39 laps down right now, as I've retired long ago. That's how long this race has been.
And there's a couple Cadillacs up in here in front of these guys, so that could play a factor for... And Karl Mumbauer really needs to try and get by, I believe that is Jerry Knitter there in the number 7 Mobil 1 car, before they get to the Moss hairpin, because otherwise he's going to, well, it might not hurt him as much, but definitely will allow him to stick right on the back of Mike Taylor as they head through, because Mike Taylor not able to get by the other Cadillac of Todd Carver right in front of them. So now he's going to have the ability to be quite close, can use a draft to try and get alongside and maybe challenge as they head into the next corner.
Actually, one thing I'm noticing here is Karl Mumbauer is mega going through the Moss hairpin there. His entry and exit through there, he gains a... I know that Mike Taylor was caught a little bit behind the Cadillac, but I've been noticing this earlier that Mumbauer has been so good through that corner.
Also, just a update on the Daniel Quaroni-John Rizzuto's battle. Quaroni able to pull out a fairly sizable gap between himself and Rizzuto's of about 3.5 seconds with 10 minutes left in the race. So that battle kind of fizzling out as it is right. The times are right now. Quaroni able to extend his lead over Rizzuto's, and looks like Karl Mumbauer getting held up there by that Cadillac, and it's going to put him a bit behind the number 66 of Mike Taylor, although another Cadillac coming up here that'll give him a chance to catch back up as they head through the Moss hairpin.
Now check again, if you get an outside view of them cars going through turn 2, it looked to me, and maybe that was just a graphical thing, but it looked to me like the inside left tire of these Daytona prototypes is coming up off the ground as they're going through too. Maybe we'll get to see it with Brent Biles here as he comes through if we hold on to him for a few more seconds. Of course we won't. That was one of, like I just mentioned a minute or so ago. It's like, you notice how far back I was, but it really, I mean, I've done this track on iRacing and Grand Prix Legends. I've been here. I haven't raced on this track in real life, but I've been here in real life, and it's such a pleasure to drive. That just every time I'm watching these guys go around all these corners, it's really kind of depressing me to think because I crashed out early last year and I missed it again. Oh, Mike Taylor is slow, and that's allowed. Actually, I don't know what that's allowed because we cut away. So.
That was, well, that was very, very close for him losing on turn 2. Luckily, I think he was able to save it, but I'm sure that was a very oh crap moment for him. If you catch the grass, it's very, very difficult to keep off that wall there, even though there is such a large runoff area. Hopefully he was able to do it and save the car. I think he was.
Yep, he's maintained 10th place. He's still about 2.5 seconds behind Marty Jeffries, and Karl Mumbauer is a certain distance behind him.
Now we jump on board with Brent Biles, who is chasing down John Rizzuto's. Rizzuto's not able to keep pace with Daniel Quaroni. He's dropped about 4.5 seconds back, and now looks like Brent Biles is going to put the challenge on Rizzuto's and see if he can't get by. And he's been catching him fairly steadily the last couple laps, and we could see a battle here within the last 8 minutes of this race between these two drivers for 6th place in class.
Yeah, well, so in order to save time in the pits, John went for I think a heavy tank to start with and a light fuel load or light fuel pit stop. He did not take tires, and that's hurting him in this section of the race, as you can see, as I'm getting away from him, and Brent Biles is catching up pretty quickly.
Yeah, see, it's a strategy that I don't quite understand in this car here, because the tire degradation is pretty, I think it's even thermal degradation, but it is pretty severe here, and on a fresh set of tires you can gain heaps of time. And there's been situations where I've run down guys extremely easily that I had no business racing with, because they only took fuel and I was able to take tires. My pit stop took probably 3 or 4 seconds longer, but I mean, you gain that back within like 3 laps. So that being said, it's a pretty tight track, so although John's not able to catch up with Dan, we'll see if Brent is able to do anything with John, because I mean, the car's still stable. I mean, it's not like the tires are falling right off the cliff, if you will, but they're still maintaining enough grip that if he doesn't make any mistakes, he may be able to hold off Brent for the remaining laps.
Yeah, when Brent Biles was still trying to catch up to the back of Rizzuto's, he was catching him by about half a second per lap. And so now I think he's probably going to be, I guess he's going to be getting held up by John Rizzuto's right now unless he can get around. But like Brian pointed out, this is quite a narrow track. It is very difficult to pass here. So even though Rizzuto's decided to go with a different pit strategy that might not be working out quite as well as he'd hoped for him right now, because it is such a tight track, he might be able to hold on, but just judging by the pace that Brent Biles has, I don't think he's going to be able to. It looks like he's quite a bit faster than Rizzuto's.
Yeah, I looked for a moment there like you might have to eat the words you were saying right there and then, but so far Rizzuto's managed to hold Biles off.
And we've got Mike Taylor who's caught up to Marty Jeffries, and they've got some traffic there, so let's see how this goes. And Mike Taylor on the, oh no, they cleared the Cadillac there. Good view is Mike Taylor is way offline going through turn 2, able to bring it back down to the apex, but he lost a little bit of time there trying not to die as he not hit the, because ideally you want to be on the inside there, just coming over the crest and straight line it down the hill straight to the exit. If you're on the outside there, you're still turning the car as the track drops away from you, and that's where you sort of bad things can happen. As we're back to the Brent Biles and John Rizzuto's battle. And Dan Corney is not too far up the track visually. He's actually got back down to about 2.8 seconds. So it's not over yet for 5th place, but this is the main battle right here.
Yeah, as long as Briles can get a good run going through Moss corner, because you can see getting off the corner, he looks like he's much faster, so he needs to have a good run and a good exit, more importantly, coming out of the Moss hairpin, so that way he's able to draft past. There's a couple Cadillacs up here that could, we'll see how that plays out as they drag down the straight. I'm assuming that he'll be able to get by the first one, but I thought I saw a second one a bit farther up, so that could play a bit of a factor.
Yeah, Ricardo Machuca unfortunately out of the 3rd place in the pits there. He's lost that to Colin McLean already, so I'm not sure what happened there. We ran out of fuel earlier, made contact or what. But as far as the tires there, John Rizzuto's and Brent Briles, the hardest thing in those Daytona prototypes is to hold your line, hold the apex going through those long corners. And you can visually see how entering the corner it's all right, but the longer the corner goes, the more speed that Brent Briles is able to catch up as they are gaining just a ton of time, and Jan Peroni is only like just under a second and a half up the road there. You can see him now in the kayak car there as Brent Briles is right on the tail of John Rizzuto's, and John Rizzuto's is almost back in the tail of Dan Peroni. And Mike Taylor is right on the tail of Marty Jeffries, so battle's going all through Daytona prototype right now.
We'll jump back to the battle for what is quickly becoming 5th place, as these guys are pretty much nose to tail. And you saw Brent Briles get right up to the back of John Rizzuto's, but then he's not able to get on the power quite as quickly. I wonder if it might be better for him to just hang back a little bit farther going through the hairpin, and then try and get more power coming off the corner and try and drag his way past as they head down that back straight. I think he's probably hurting himself there getting so close.
We'll see if Mike's able to get a good run on Marty coming off of Moss here, but he's a little too far back right now. I'm checking my screen here, and looks like it's status quo for the battle for 5th right now. Jill Moret in 8th place, kind of in no man's land right now on either side of these battles. Now 2 minutes left, I just want to point out too, as we're focusing the back of the field here, Russell Cow is our leader, 8.5 seconds ahead of Timothy Stahl, who is a further 10 seconds ahead of Mike Kelly for 3rd in Daytona Prototype. Wyatt Foster is about 22 seconds ahead of Dan Gralty, and Dan Gralty is about 15 seconds ahead of Colin McLean in 3rd. So those are your top 3 in both classes.
And it looks like Dan Peroni able to pull a bit more of a gap between himself and John Rizzuto's, almost up to 2 seconds now. And Brent Briles still trying to find a way around John Rizzuto's. Not a whole lot of time left, probably just a couple laps left in this race. So he's going to have to do it quick.
This is going to be awkward right here. We got Todd Carver up ahead, John Rizzuto's, and let's see if Faye's able to let him through on the inside here. Todd Carver way out on the outside, able to hold on. That's all right there. One thing about Todd Carver is that he doesn't want to hold up this battle here, but at the same time, he's got to make sure that he keeps his car on the black stuff, and sometimes that is very, very hard to do, especially going through the first couple corners here. This is probably Brent's best chance, and probably his only chance here, as the next battle is a little bit ways up the road. I don't think he has the top speed to get him. He's not pulling up quick enough. He needs to be alongside by the time they get to that bend there, and he hasn't done it yet. So, you're not a place to be dive bombing here. You have to have that car right alongside before you go into turn 8.
Yeah, he just doesn't seem to have the overall top speed when he gets a little squirrely there coming through the penultimate corner. That's I'm So I find that interesting, is that he can be right on the back of Rizzuto's, but he doesn't have the speed to draft past. He's definitely faster in the corners. We can tell that he's able to get through all of the corners much faster than John Rizzuto's. But then when they get to basically the one and only passing opportunity, is we're on the white flag right now. So he's got literally one more chance to do this.
Yeah, I think he's got damage up at the front there, and that might be hurting his top speed just a little bit. It doesn't take a lot in these cars. I mean, they look like bricks, but I mean, they're kind of designed for straight line aerodynamics, so any little bend there will probably hurt them. But we'll see if there's any picks available here. But it looks like this would be advantage John, using the Cadillacs as a trap and as a pick to kind of prevent Bryles from being able to go around it on the outside. Or actually, anyway, really.
Well, Bryles is looking at his last opportunity here as the white flag is flying, and that Cadillac up ahead, it's James Cullen? I can't quite tell. I think it was James Cullen.
And
we've got cars finishing now.
James Cullen is somehow up in 6th place, by the way. That's good, but that was a pretty intense battle there, and I think he is... Actually, he's just less than a second behind Gary Miller, so I was just wondering what was going on there, but he was trying to get that one last spot there, otherwise I think he probably would have just gone clear out of the way. So yeah, Russell Cow takes the victory over Timothy Stoll in the Daytona Prototypes, with Mike Kelly finishing up in 3rd. Now we're just waiting for the leaders in particular Wyatt Foster right now to come across the line for the Cadillacs to get the timing and scoring up in the top left there to start popping up. Oh, close finish between Marty Jeffries and Mike Taylor there.
And he just throws him to the wall at the end.
The beauty of sim racing, you take your frustrations out in the car and not have to worry about a damage bill there. There we go, Wyatt Foster takes the win for the Cadillacs. And now we have the top 10, top 12 settled in for the Daytona Prototypes there. We have, running down the order, Russell Cow, Timothy Stoll, Mike Kelly, Chuck Chambliss, Daniel Peroni, John Rizzuto's, Brent Bryles, Gilles Moret, Marty Jeffries, Mike Taylor, Carl Mumbauer, and Tim McLeish for the top 12 there. And that is, we'll go down to the standings.
Alright, well, Russell Cow takes home another win, chalking up 75 points now with the drop week included. Mike Kelly slipping a little farther back, 8 points, but still no troubles. And he still has plenty of a shot. This is only race 4 here. And Mark Payne taking home the, 2nd place? What did he have?
Mark Payne was not in this race.
Oh, okay. There we go. Mark Payne wasn't even in the race. So he holds on to 1st, but James Cullen and Colin McLean right behind him. Well, I guess that's all I'll be able to run through before we get a chance to look at the schedule graphic in just a moment.
And for the schedule, just so you notice, by the time this gets posted, we'll probably have run our last race of the season, which will be Laguna Seca. We'll get an idea of the order that the next race is coming for the broadcast are. There will be a larger break between, this is season 8 and season 9, so hopefully the broadcast will catch up to the real life date, but I guess any second now we'll get the schedule coming up as we watch, there it is right there. So we're just at Mosport. Sebring will be up next, and hopefully we'll get that out shortly after this one here. The Green Death VIR will be coming up. That's a tough one there. Watkins Glen, that's a 2-hour race, as you can see highlighted in blue. Homestead Road, a classic Grand Am Roval. Zolder, first time using that track, quite a fun track. And then, as I mentioned before, our season finale at Laguna Seca.
Alright, well, kind of crazy beginning. We knew it was going to be a lot of a big challenge with all these cars on the track and the multi-class passing, but once unfortunately a lot of cars crashed out, it settled down and we had some good battles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's personally I was a little gutted because, I mean, this is a one track in the Daytona Prototypes. I had the pace to challenge for the front runners. A lot of times I do it by playing it safe and just keeping the laps off, but this one I stuffed into the wall, which is disappointing. However, from what we saw, especially from about the midpoint on, the racing was fantastic, and I always enjoy coming to watch and race at Mosport.
Alright, well, we will wrap it up. As always, thanks to our sponsor Z1 Simwheel, to the racers here and admins at ISRA for making these races possible. And, of course, to Anthony Muniz and Brian Carey for joining me here in the studio to record these commentaries. We will see you again next time at Sebring. Have a good night.